call the meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Ms. Stone? Here. Mr. Pospalakis?
Here.
Mr. Kostadakis? Ms. Ramsey? Here. Mr. Lee?
Here.
Ms. Register?
Here.
Mr. Bohan?
Here.
Mr. Phillips?
Here.
Chairman Webster?
Present. We have a quorum. Do we have a motion with respect to approval of minutes for the March 18, 2013 meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any revisions? All in favor? Say
Aye.
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 All opposed? Passed unanimously. We next have election of officers. We have a chair and a vice chair position open. I have been advised that I'm actually eligible for one more opportunity as chair. I would like to serve if you all would see fit to have me as such. If not, that's fine too. And we also need a vice chair because we have none right now. So are there anyone else who would like to be considered for chair or vice chair? We need at least a vice chair.
Well, I'd like to first start out by nominating you as chairman again.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Do we have any discussion? Do we have any other nominations
This is for chair.
for chair? No other nominations? No discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. With respect to vice chair, do we have any nominations or anyone who would like to be up?
I would like to nominate Matt Bohan for vice chair.
We have Matt Bohan for vice chair. Do we have any second?
I'll second.
Okay. Do we have any other nominations for vice chair?
Does Matt want to be vice chair?
Does Matt want to be vice chair?
I will do it.
We'll close the nominations. All in favor of Matt as vice chair, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? It's unanimous. Congratulations, or condolences, whichever works out there. All right, moving on. Public comments. John. Oh, and I'm going to try and move as expeditiously as possible. Reed's been up since 3 a.m. traveling to South Florida and back, and so we're going to try and get him home to bed.
Aw.
Not any sympathy for him, just, we don't want him driving too much later at night. It's a safety issue.
He took the scenic route down. It took him 5 hours to get there on a 2-hour drive.
All right, John, go ahead.
I brought up before the city commission a half-penny sales tax. Port Orange put a half-penny sales tax on the infrastructure, and they're allowed to collect millions of dollars to help put the infrastructure in the pavilion. I'm suggesting that we do that on the beach side in the Main Street CRA, actually in the B, R1, 2, 3, and 4, which is Main Street, and A1A, which is the tourist district. What it does is it creates a sales tax that stays in the CRA area and the Beach Street area. The city collects about $100 million in sales tax, sends it to Tallahassee, and we get $5 million back. That's it. We, as a city, Daytona Beach, collect 40% of the tax for the half-penny sales tax for the schools for the entire county. We are a massive generator of sales tax. This is a way of keeping the money here for the infrastructure that we want, putting the electricity underground. It would cost about $2.5 million to put all of the Main Street wires underground, which is not a lot of money. This would not be a tax on the residents. What happens is when you do the tourist tax, anybody who rents a hotel room or does business on A1A, such as Dino's Boardwalk, which is predominantly tourists, going into the gift shops, predominantly tourists, renting a hotel room, predominantly tourists. The residents would get a little bit if you shop on or buy beer, liquor, or whatever on Main Street. That's the only time Bel Air Plaza would be excluded because it's not in a BR, it's a B1. So what happens is 95% of this would be paid for by tourists. It would generate about $4 million. What I'm suggesting is that we give 10% to the county for the Ocean Center, for Sunsplash Park, which is in the CRA, and for the beach, cars, whatever they might need. This kind of greases the wheel for them to say yes. It gives them a little bit of money. They need money. We need money. And then 10% would go towards the areas north and south of the Main Street CRA, because they're going to need infrastructure over time. So that's $500,000 a year that could be built up to put their electricity underground, do their water and sewer, et cetera. We need water and sewer both for the Canadians and the Russians. There will be other projects that will need infrastructure improvement. Here's a way of generating that extra money. It's a way of doing our roadways, our sidewalks, our landscaping, lots and lots of things that we can do with this in terms of infrastructure. And it costs us nothing, and it's generated by outsiders.
John, what's the authority that authorizes a municipality to enact this half-cent sales tax?
It would be the city itself determines it, and then they get the approval from the county. And I talked to 4 people on the county board, and they're all in favor of it. So
Is there a Florida statute that authorizes it?
I haven't looked into that because
Okay.
there's no sense in going into it if you guys sit there and say, oh, absolutely not, we don't want money. So you just don't look into it.
I actually think that might be a viable option and can't believe they haven't looked at it before, but I'm curious as to what are the mechanics of it. There's got to be a statute or something that authorizes it if it requires county approval and everything else, so. Carrie, do you know anything
Pavilion
about
did
that?
it.
No, we would have to look into it, research.
Okay, I think it'd be something worth looking into if we could.
I have a comment on that, so you go ahead first. Ladies first.
Thank you. Do we know how the businesses feel about it? And then is there research showing like it doesn't affect sales or affects people shopping in a certain area? Like it would still be strong enough? Is there data that supports that we could look at from another project?
I don't, all I know is they do something, I think the Tom's talked about what's down at the Pavilion. And Pavilion is busting, I mean, just doing great. So, I'm not so sure there's a negative ramification there. It certainly would have to involve the businesses and such, but the threshold issue is how does it possibly, how does it begin to work from a legal perspective, at least from my side of things. And then we'd have to look at all the other issues.
Now,
Dina?
everybody's under the assumption that sales tax is passed on, and it doesn't come out of pocket of, let's say the residents or the business person, okay? In my scenario, I have a video arcade. I actually pay sales tax to the state of Florida.
Right.
I do not have a penny slot next to my quarter slot. So if somebody plays a Pac-Man game and puts a quarter in there, that 1.5 cents or whatever is paid by me. So to me, sales tax is an income tax. So I just want you to know that it's not passed on always.
Correct.
Thank you.
Good point, Dina.
And that's one of those things that I actually think that, I could go on it, but I'm in that business that I'm probably one of the only businesses out there that is personally taxed as a result of sales tax.
It directly affects you directly.
Right.
But it doesn't affect your food and beverage, it only affects your games.
If you want to turn around and say, that sales tax only on food and beverage, okay, that's a different ballgame. But
Yeah, food and beverage, they pay it out of pocket.
But I mean, but that's not the way it works.
Right.
Okay, very good.
Right.
Good thought,
Okay.
John, thank you. I'm sorry, Teresa.
I have a couple of bars, and they operate the same as Dino's Arcade. The sales tax is included in the price, so if you increase the sales tax, it increases the takeout of my share.
Right.
Because for example, you're selling a bottle of beer for $2, and so.
The sales tax is in it.
It would
It
cost a
included.
penny on $2.
All right, very good.
Yeah.
In a restaurant, the sales tax is added. but
Right.
Like in my bars, it's
Yeah,
in it.
we always include everything in a bar.
Okay.
Well, most bars do. Some bars don't, they add on.
I can't speak for all of them.
Yeah. It's too complicated in a bar to add the sales tax.
Understood. All right, thank you. And Carrie, I just think it would be interesting to look at the legality, how that is implemented and what the approval process is and such is something worth considering.
I just sent myself an email, so
Okay. Excellent.
before next meeting.
Thank you. Okay, moving on, item number 6, DEV 2013-016, conditional use 821 Main Street Pub and Grill. Reed?
All right. Looks like I do not have the applicant here tonight.
Make it shorter.
So, but you've all met the applicant, Paulo, who has the Rosseline's restaurant. He was here before. He got the the approval from this board for the alcohol use in the establishment within 500 feet of another on Main Street. So that part's done. But when he came in last time, he did not, he wanted to get that done right away, hoping to get open around the bike week. That didn't happen. He kind of had some challenges in getting into that, the old plumbing, getting it ripped out, having just a lot of complexity in the project. Is now a time when he needs to come back and get the outside cafe part of it done. That wasn't important at the time, but his original request did wrap that in, and he also has to, because it's on a public sidewalk, go before the city commission to get approval. You may recall when it was the Main Street Cafe, there were 3 tables out there, or 2 tables, depending on the wind or whatever. But typically, at least 2 tables were out there. And they were closest to the curb, and there's in your packet the layout and shows that. And we just need to go through the formality of an approval, and this really becomes information for the city commission to also consider as a part of moving forward with their sidewalk cafe license as well. So I think everything I see is just like the original application many years ago. Nothing really changes in the layout. I don't know if you've been there yet to stop by the establishment, but he's changed it from that old Main Street Cafe and turned it into a beautiful restaurant and pub, and it's got the woodwork and including the facade on the outside, and on the inside, it's remarkable. It really is. So if you haven't been there, please take a look, because it's not what we've been seeing all the time in Main Street. He's made a significant investment there. If there's any questions about the report, I'm glad to answer those.
Yeah, I've been by on a few runs and such, and it's a total rebuild. So, and they were here back in the fall and said they were going to be doing this, just hadn't given the 15-day notice. I think it's great that they put a few tables out there, gets people in the street, gets some more life going. Had breakfast out there a few times before and such, and like to do it again. Do we have any questions or discussion?
Yeah, I do. One question I had is, they plan on selling beer outside on the sidewalk, right?
That is the intent, to be able to come out and serve alcohol.
Okay, now, the way the Main Street Cafe had it in the past, they just had the tables out there. There was no fences. Obviously, when you sell beer, you have to have no alcohol beyond this point, and you actually have to have it caged in, which I didn't see in any of these plans, any type of fencing. Can you put on your that email that I sent you? I forwarded an email of the fencing that we use at the boardwalk. I like better than the picket fencing, because this is a lot more sturdier. And obviously, they're going to need to put some kind of boundary, and on the interior of that boundary, for us to say no alcohol beyond this point. And I would recommend that we ask them to do something similar to that. It doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be Pepsi, it doesn't have to be Aquafina, it doesn't have to be Bud Light, or whatever they want. But or picket fencing, if that's what this board wants. I just think that's more attractive than the white picket fences that I used to have, which but it's whatever this board feels. But I do think that they're going to have to put something over there, because you have to, I know that the state of Florida required me to designate the area where the alcohol was not going to go beyond that point. See, before Main Street Cafe was breakfast, they were eating breakfast outside.
Right.
We're opening up the door to alcohol. That's why I think fencing is going to be, but the other point that it has to be made, the fence is going to have to be sturdy, because, actually, there's no parked cars anywhere around here. There's going to be cars driving by. You don't want the fence to fall out in their way either, but I mean, and that's why I'm saying that's more sturdier than your picket fence, you know?
What about during events? Lights with fence and everything else during bike week, that's gonna be
I
ridiculous.
don't think there's
I don't
any
make
fence
the-
contemplated.
No.
There's not room for fence.
Yeah, I would tell you, there's no requirement in the land development code that I'm aware of for a fence.
There's a requirement from the state of Florida. If you're going to have
For the
alcohol,
alcohol.
you have to have signs and you have to have a designated area. And, yeah, I mean, and if that's the case, I'd be more than glad to lift my fences off and take them off the boardwalk.
Well, yeah,
and just-
if it's required by ABT or the state alcohol, they will
Otherwise,
impose that
I wouldn't have
requirement,
them.
but that won't be within the purview of this board. That will be upon that agency.
Okay, so you're saying we could pass it however we want?
Exactly.
You know, and then from there, it'll be up to them whether or not they are law-abiding or not.
But here's my concern. If there's a requirement that there's a fence, it should be shown on their drawings.
But it's not, it says screening from a residential use or zone shall be provided with a 6-foot high wooden privacy fence. That's not this situation. And then it says the perimeter of the use shall be defined in accordance with the state alcohol, beverage, and tobacco regulations and approved by this board. So if the state requires that fence, that will go in.
Yeah, but
So-
my concern would be if they're putting up a fence, I want to know where they're putting up a fence. So it's not going to restrict the access and clutter up the sidewalk.
Well, if you show back the picture that I had, and that's why I did that, just to give you an idea.
It's right behind your head on the screen up there.
Okay, it's right there, but there you go. It's hard to see it, but the first 8 feet, you know, from my business to the beginning of the first fence, and I just happened to be driving on the way here and thought, oh, hey, Brandon, why don't you go out there and take a picture of the fence and text it to me, and then I forwarded it over here. So it wasn't even like, so this is just 30 minutes ago. But anyways, the first 8 feet is actually clear for a police vehicle to be able to drive by or what have you. On Main Street, it would be for pedestrians to walk by. And then I have openings in between the fences if people want to walk through or what have you. So I designed it so that way it wouldn't impede pedestrian traffic flow.
No, and I actually noted this when I was down there last weekend or so, and I was like, oh, that's kind of a nice layout, because you have access, you're not getting people walking through on top of the tables, but you're allowing people to go through in an organized manner. This sidewalk on Main Street is much narrower and tighter.
Exactly.
And I would want to see, if there's going to be some required fencing, I'd like to see that drawn onto their site plan so we know that ahead of time, so that they don't come in and then put up fences that we don't know about in a manner that would be contrary to what we want to see on Main Street.
Well, how about we
Because-
pass it what I could do is I could make a motion to where we pass it, but if there is to be any fences to be added, they provide us a site plan of the fences that are going to be added, and that way we could review it at that time. But that way he gets his passage, he could put his tables out, and then it basically is going to be one more step of giving you some pictures. I mean, he doesn't even have to come here. Give you the pictures presented at the next meeting.
Let's do this, if we could, is that this will be coming to the city commission, and that we just say if there are fence requirements that structure
Okay.
be shown in that cafe license. I'm not aware of it, and I would just want to point out that on Beach Street and other places where we serve alcohol on a table, there's no fencing around most of that except in where we have lots of tables. And there may be a number of seats before you reach that. I don't know what that is. I don't. But I do know that we're able to serve alcohol out on 2 or 3 tables in front of Scuttlebutts and some of the other restaurants that we have on Beach Street. And they're not being required.
I mean, I'd be more than willing to. I mean, to be honest with you, the
you
fences
may
are a
be the
pain in the butt
exception.
for me to put out and bring back in. I mean,
You know, I think your property may be an exception, and we'll have to look at that. There may be, because you're on the boardwalk, it's a different
But
type
I
of
go by the
property.
same state law that everybody else who drinks, and what have you.
We'll check into
Well,
it.
Reed's idea sounds like a good one, addresses my concern and makes it
Okay.
move on. So do we have a motion?
I move for approval of this item, pending that if there is any fencing to be added, that it be part of the package prior to the city commission, the upcoming city commission meeting.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Do we have any discussion?
I'd like to ask a question. As I see this, as presented to us, this business complies with the requirements that we are directed to see that they comply with. And whether or not the beverage department opts to weigh in on this location, that is not within our scope. It's not within our responsibility. I mean, that's up to the beverage department. I think it is a slightly different application than the considerable operation that is on the boardwalk with lots of people walking on both sides. Here, this little strip here, it is separated by a public sidewalk on one side and a street with traffic on the other. It's just a narrow little strip. And if they were to fence it in on both sides, I think it would.
Oh, no, mine's not on both sides.
I think if.
Mine's the exterior perimeter, but
Okay,
that, I
are you
understand
afraid
what you're...
cars are gonna hit it? I mean, I don't know where the beverage, again, I just think that with the criteria that we have, we're not there to enforce the requirements of the beverage.
And I'm not making it, I'm not making them put the
Okay,
fencing.
okay.
What I'm saying is that if you are, they're going to find out that the alcohol department wants a designated area, and they're going to want signs that say no alcohol beyond this point. They're going to find that out. If they're going to get the permit, it's going to be told to them, okay?
I understand a line of demarcation that,
So what I'm saying is that if you are going to put the fencing, let a body, being the city commission, review your fencing, because the fencing could look nice, it could look like crap, it's
yeah. Yeah.
And I think that the one provision here that it's got to provide the pedestrian flow through the cafe is why I want to look at the fencing and such too, is to make sure we're not going to be obstructing the sidewalks and such.
Yeah, and it can't impede the sidewalk. I mean, that's a requirement.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
That
but
is a prerequisite.
If they have to have a fence, the idea is at least let the city commission be required to look at it.
Yeah, and it is a license, and we can put any provision in there within reason that we feel is relevant to making sure that what happens at cafe is proper.
At the city commission level, correct?
At the city commission level,
Okay.
including
I have a-
noise.
I have a comment as a designer.
Suzanne?
Yes, looking at the space plan and the furniture layout, if you require them to put a fence between the public part of the sidewalk and the paved part where they're going to put the furniture, the servers would not be able to get to the tables, because they're going to have to walk out on the public sidewalk just a little bit to get to the next table. So it doesn't even function for them. So you're going to have to make some sort of exception for them, I believe. Do you agree with that?
I just think the preference is there shouldn't be any fences.
Yeah, it has to be.
Yeah, and I think we'll probably get there. If there's going to be an issue, we'll raise it for the commission.
Very good.
Okay.
John, public comment?
John Nicholson, 413 North Granbury Avenue. On the fences, Tracy Remark demanded that they put in the aluminum fences on the boardwalk. They started peeling within 6 months. There was a time when Virginia was demanding that they put in the white picket fences, and the tops pull off very easily, and they look like garbage. That Dino likes, they flip over. In the 30 years, I've picked up maybe twice his white picket fences. Those metal ones, they flipped over maybe the last 8 times. So they go very easily with the wind. So be careful what you pick, because some peel, some break. So whatever you put in is going to be very noticeable for a long time.
The metal ones, we put a block of wood underneath it, which gives them more of a base, which now we're not having as much of a problem with them coming over.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Discussion. All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Passes unanimously. Redevelopment projects update.
Hopefully, this will be short. I have a correction under and this is just on my PowerPoint, I believe I got it right in the staff report that you received, that the wayfinding presentation is on the 25th, not the 18th. So on Thursday, April the 25th, there will be a wayfinding presentation from 11 to 7. It's on our website right now if you want some further information about it. It'll be over at the Rose Room at the Peabody. It'll be one of those open houses where you can come in at any time, you can provide some feedback, comment, and they'll have some boards up, similar to what we did with the E-zone. And one of the main things they're trying to get input on is, at this stage, is do we have all the destinations? Do we have the parking and all of the things that we're going to be pointing the tourists, the people are coming here to, and getting it in the right order. So this is a chance to get that input. Do we, beyond getting the signs that send you to the Salvation Army and the churches and some of those things, what are those other things you want to get people to? Obviously, the convention center, and I don't know if you've ever seen it, but the parking garage. You come down ISB, you come down South Atlantic, you don't get any signage that says, we've got a big old parking garage here. You got to really look for it to find it. Those are the kinds of things. They may seem obvious, but I think all of us can contribute probably in some way, and just don't leave it up to us planners to figure it out for you. If you think there's something that should be on the list or not on the list, get your comments in at that time if you can.
Yeah, Reed, could you send out a reminder email to the board?
I can.
I
Sure.
personally will be out of town, and but that will at least remind us, and if we can pop over at any time, I think it would be very helpful for everybody to go give your input. And where'd John go? John, I know you'll be there. Oh, he's out the door. Okay.
Okay, and then moving right along to the county CRAs, we got a 60-day reprieve on from the county to allow a chance for the city officials or elected officials from all the different cities to approach individuals at the county, their elected representatives, and have some discussion about what our concerns are. And the city managers have gotten together. They're going back to respective elected officials and hopefully getting resolutions so that when it comes to, I think, the first meeting in June that they have, that first Thursday is the time they're expected to take it up again officially. And right now, they're still saying it's new CRAs, and we're not feeling that comfortable about that issue. So we'll see.
If we have questions on this, is this the time to ask them now on this item number?
Sure.
What are the main city's concerns on the implications that the county wants to redo? From what I read, it doesn't say just new ones. It says also a delegation on existing ones. Is that's what you're afraid of?
Yeah, that's the concern. Because there's been discussion in public meetings that have pointed to the fact that the formula that's being applied to the new ones is the formula that can apply to the existing, and the whole discussion is about saving money now. Well, it's to have any impact financially for the county to change their picture, they need to come in and start to change what they're doing with the existing.
Okay.
And while it's not been done officially, there's not an official resolution out there, that's our primary concern, and we're addressing it now, and we'll have some strategies to deal with it.
Okay, under Section 3, it says that a future delegation of powers under the Act shall direct that both the Community Redevelopment Agency and the County Council must approve the Community Redevelopment Plan and any amendments thereto, and that the ordinance establishing the Redevelopment Trust Fund be effective only after County Council approval of the plan. What exists now does not have the county approvals required?
No, we'll have to separate two things. that resolution is about new CRAs right now, which you're reading from. Okay, that's just to address the people who are waiting right now, like Orange City, who would like to have a CRA, and they're waiting for that answer, and that is how it's written there, is for the new ones. We already have all the existing CRAs. There's 15 of them.
Right.
Have the delegation from the county of the authority and power that's been granted to operate these redevelopment areas, okay? To have an agency, have trust funds, and we've all been through this.
But you don't have to have the county's approval on all of this now, under the old ones, the existing ones, correct? This will be a change.
Well, this will be a change for the new ones and could be applied to the existing ones.
Yeah, because when I read the very first paragraph, Resolution 2013, it says right on there, this is for future delegation or amendment of existing delegation of the exercise of powers of the Community Redevelopment Act. Oh, wait a minute, let me read. Maybe I read that wrong. Just a second. Amending and restating policy for future delegation or amendment.
Amendment.
Amendment of existing delegation. Right. So that's how the existing can come under the same laws.
Let me tell you what an amendment in the statute means if we're going to change the boundaries. If we wanted to expand Main Street, for example, and go north or south on the beach side, at that time, that would be an amendment. It would have to go back to the county by statute for their authorization after we've sent them our recommendation, the CRA, and said we're approving this. If you approve it, then we can expand it, and it'll all go forward. And so what they're saying is, not so fast. If you want to do that and have that amendment, you're going to fall under this new provision. So that does affect all existing ones in terms of wanting to expand their boundaries, change their boundaries.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Yep.
Reed?
Okay.
Anything else?
No, I'll leave it there. Just stay tuned. It'll be in the newspaper.
Well, you want to talk about the land development code rewrite?
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. I was just mentioning on the CRA issue. I think unless you have any questions, you've all probably reading a lot about the tourism study now. Kind of interesting that there isn't a lot of acceptance about using the word Daytona Beach in how we market ourselves, but we'll see how that goes. But wanted to let you know that the Sunoco issue is coming up to the April 25th planning board meeting. So we'll fill the seats, I'm sure, on that evening. And then also let you know that on the land development code rewrite, it's back. The full version is I think I sent a report that has a link in there for it. We're not handing out large volumes of paper for these boards, but we do have it on site for the public, for you, everyone to comment on, and I strongly encourage you to take a look at it, direct your questions to me, to the planning staff, about anything that you've read in there.
Okay, and I'm sorry, it is 769 pages long, so I've been flipping through it as the meeting, but I do have one question. As far as the RDB4, because I had my attorney here, I mean, the setbacks were pretty stringent and everything like that. Are the setback proposals any different from what we have now? I saw it on page 229, and it seemed to not have changed, but I'm asking the question.
The intent is not to go back and change, make a lot of changes to the existing redevelopment areas right now. That was the intent, as far as changing.
So
setbacks.
you'll get back with me if there are any setback proposals that are any different for that area.
I'm going to try to be very sensitive to anything out there on the boardwalk.
Well, it's just because, I mean, obviously you saw the scenario, a
Yes.
7,500 square foot building would become 3,300 square feet, utilizing the setback requirements that they had originally proposed.
Right, and
And that's half the size.
And I think if there's any question about what's in there, and you feel it's something, particularly if it affects a property of somebody, to get it back, send an email in, get on the record.
Okay,
That's one way to do it.
One more question. The Wendy's property that's been closed down, I know that they were going for an exception. What was that exception? Was it to have drive-through service, or?
Right now, I can't tell you. I don't have that any official request in front of me.
Okay, okay, now, that's a different zoning district, but what is, I know it came before this board, and I was against it, but we got some new members. I think that drive-throughs are an asset, and it could take some existing businesses that are closed, such as the Wendy's, and get them reopened, you know? I think that what came before this board was Clarion had recommended that we do not have drive-throughs on A1A. And like I said, this is 769 pages, and I didn't realize it. Is that in here? Or what is proposed as far as drive-throughs on Atlantic Avenue, which would be the T3, the T2, and the A1A corridor?
At this moment, I could not tell you what's in there about the drive-throughs. I really.
Okay, so what I'll do is I'll address some of my questions to you in an email, and then maybe at the next meeting we could bring it up.
I'll get a
again.
cup of
I'm sorry.
coffee and I'll
Yeah,
be ready.
no problem.
Okay.
Further redevelopment comments there, Reed, or you?
Nope,
wrapped?
that's it.
Very good.
Well, you had an update for the roller coaster, did you, at the last, okay. They're clearing the site for that roller coaster right now as we speak, and so I'm predicting in a couple of weeks we'll be seeing something really nice.
Sounds good. Board comments, starting with Dino. We're with you.
I think I spoke enough.
Good job, guy. Carrie? Randall? Matt?
Good.
Teresa? We stand adjourned. Thank you all very much.
I try not to.